Kris Chanski, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. You're a single mother, a business owner, manager of Range 702. What's your everyday carry?
I have a few. So I conceal carry the 43X, Glock 43X. And then at work, it depends on what I'm feeling that day. But it's either Glock 19X or a CZ P10F.
What is it about those that makes you want to carry them?
Well, I guess I'm a Glock girl. I think Glocks are just reliable and I don't know, I find them just easy and consistent. And the 43X, as soon as I shot it, I knew that was my concealed carry. And then, yeah, I guess the story is the same for all three of those. I just shoot them and decide. And lucky for me, I have a lot of firearms at my disposal, so I'm able to try them all out.
You got a wide variety at your
Yeah.
disposal. If someone is interested in firearms, how do they choose the gun that they should use that doesn't have the wide variety at their disposal?
So I always suggest that people, of course, come into our store, or if you can't come into our store, whatever store you're available to go into, because I do think touching and putting your hand on a gun is important when you're trying it out. Can you operate it? Can you, is the slide easy for you? I also think it's really great to work with somebody that has some knowledge so that you can kind of figure that out. If you don't feel like you have the knowledge, find someone who does. So my suggestion is to always try to find a good place. I know sometimes that's easier said than done. Research online is great. I just think it's different when you put your hands on it. So if you can get with someone that knows a little bit more, and is able to let you try out some different firearms, do that. I guess online would be second.
Gotcha. So you go to the store, you pick out the gun that fits in your hand that you think is going to be great. What about holsters and ammo and all of that?
So I think safety is first when it comes to holsters. I think there's a lot of different options, especially for women. I think there's a lot of unsafe options. So I always suggest, again, if you can find someone, great. If not, it's important to understand what kind of holster is safe and what kind of holster isn't safe. For me, I always want a Kydex holster, especially for women. There's a lot of fabric and stuff that looks like corsets. And, if it's not safe for a man, it's not safe for a woman. So I think that figuring out how to carry safely is just as important as carrying in general. So I always suggest to work with somebody on that too. But I think just to remember that just because it's pretty doesn't mean it's functional.
Very, very, very understandable. So if the person does go to get the firearm, they get the holster, do they need a permit or can they buy? How's the buying process work?
So that's going to vary depending on what state you're in. I don't think there's really two states that are alike when it comes to firearm laws and laws to carry, laws to purchase. In our state and in our store, purchasing is relatively easy. You just need to pass a background check, and it can be done usually within a day. And then open carrying here in the state of Nevada is legal for anyone that would have access to a firearm. And in order to conceal carry, so in order to carry that firearm around without anybody seeing it, you'll need a permit. And that's something that we provide at our range. It's an 8-hour class, and then you have to kind of take all of that information over to Metro, submit it, and eventually they'll send you the concealed carry permit.
That's good to know. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to use your firearm or pull it?
So there's one story I'll tell you, and I think it's a good representation of how important it is to be mindful and keep your wits about you even though you might be under some stress. So I was in a drive-thru of a Wendy's, and picking up a not very healthy dinner. And I always kind of look around me all the time. So I was sitting there waiting for my food. I'd already paid, so the window was closed. And I was like, is that a person coming up behind my vehicle? And so I'm kind of looking in the mirrors and I'm like, yeah, it is. And then I noticed he was holding something. It turned out to be a rock, but I couldn't really tell what it was. And I could tell he was absolutely sneaking, like right away, just the way his body was moving. And I knew his intentions weren't great. So I had my firearm and I kind of just drew it and held it. And then he came up to the window with a rock and began to tell me to give him money. But I had my firearm and kind of was able to convince him easily without any words that he should get away from me. And the cops did come. And I think if I would have handled it with, let's say it's good to remain calm and notice from one moment my life might be in danger, and then the next moment my life isn't in danger. So I think it's just good to have a firearm, know how to use it, and also to keep your wits about you while you're going through a situation like that.
So even though you had the gun out, you're like, oh, I am now in control of this, so I can back off a little bit. And then
Right.
as the person's walking, you're like, okay, I don't have to be at a level 10 right now. I can kind of back off.
Right. I think a situation can be scary and can make you need to have a weapon. And you can also realize at the same time, my life isn't in danger, so I won't use the firearm.
Are there things that you can recommend besides just carrying, like martial arts or anything that if a person or a woman is in that situation that they can keep a calmer head?
I guess I don't know any specific tips and tricks to keep a calm demeanor. I think it's kind of like a muscle, like anything else. The more you practice, the better you'll become. So there's definitely been moments in my life when I wasn't calm, and I should have been. So I think just as you go through those things, whether it's at work or whether it's personal, I always like to kind of go and relive those moments in my head and think how I could have done better. And I think being calmer is usually always a good answer. So just kind of like learning how to flex that muscle, I guess. And then also always being aware. You know, I mean, I think everybody says that over and over. Be aware of your surroundings. It's very true, though. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't let anything surprise you. I think when you're surprised is when you lose control of your emotion. So, you know, if I would have been scrolling through TikTok instead of checking my mirrors, I might not have reacted the same way.
Got it. Do you recommend concealed carry insurance if someone is in a situation that does get deadly?
Yeah, I do recommend concealed carry insurance. I have used USCCA. I think having a plan, and insurance is just part of that plan. It's not all of it. And also knowing the laws. I think some people will just say, you know, I have insurance, I'm fine. You still have to know the laws. You still have to be able to know the laws well enough that in that moment you can understand the law, understand how your situation fits into the law, and then make choices that kind of support that and go along with that. So I think just saying, like, I have insurance and then feeling like that's the end of it isn't good enough. But it's part of being a responsible gun owner.
Have you always been into firearms? Like, did you grow up shooting, or was this something that you got into later? What were you doing before you were managing the range?
I was not into firearms. I actually didn't like guns at all. And I was terrified of them. Every time I had an interaction with a gun, it was a bad situation. There was no gun safety involved. So I just always had I was just uneducated when it came to firearms. Every experience I had was so negative that left me with a very negative view of firearms. So I didn't like them at all. I don't think I really had a stance on what needed to be done with firearms, but probably back then, if you would have asked me, should all guns be banned, I probably would have said yes.
Oh, wow.
Just because I didn't like them and I didn't know anything about them, and being around them made me uncomfortable. And quite frankly, if you don't know anything about firearms, you should be uncomfortable when you're around them. So I tend to empathize with people who just aren't educated and don't understand and come to that conclusion that there just shouldn't be any guns. I do understand where they're coming from because I used to be there. But then, all these things happened, and then suddenly now guns are a big part of my life.
What was the turning point that made you go from not thinking guns were a good idea to now managing a range?
Yeah, so I think, man, the universe just like all these things just kind of happened. So first of all, I was working in a very different industry. I was working in entertainment and had a great career. On paper, there was just nothing lacking from my career. I had done all the things, had an amazing career. And on paper, it looked really good. And I was miserable. The company that I worked for just didn't treat people well. Most of the people in leadership around me didn't have great intentions and didn't care about who they were working with. And to me, people mean a lot. I care a lot about the people around me, so it wasn't a good fit for me. And I was living in that space very unhappy, but not really doing anything about it. And I got a call for this gun range. And it's, at that time, like I kind of explained to you, it's way outside of what made me comfortable. And I realized, I was kind of asking the universe for a big change, and then it was offering me one. So I should probably look into it. And the people that own the range are good people, and our morals align. They care a lot about their people, and they want to do the right thing, even if, it doesn't make you the best dollar. So my morals aligned with them, and I decided that the industry that I was working in was less important than, who I was as a person. So I just decided to take a leap of faith, even though at that time I was only working on the sales and marketing and business sides of things. I wasn't involved in the range operations at all at that time. And then all at once, I had someone threaten my life quite seriously. And I realized I need to protect myself. And then also at the same time, long story short, I was just told, hey, you're in charge of the range now. And so both of those things, kind of being in charge of range operations suddenly, which I didn't know much about at the time. And then also, being faced with, if you can't protect yourself, you might die. Those two things together made me realize, oh, I'm going to learn all about guns right now. So I had a rather fast education around firearms. And, I'm really thankful I was around, I was working with people who, took a lot of extra time to help me and kind of fast-tracked my education. I think most people don't have access to what I had access to. So it's really, if I hadn't had those people that kind of like took me under their wing and, kindly, nicely explained something to me, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm really thankful that kind of all fell into place.
Got it. Managing a range must be a unique experience. You got people coming in with guns. Everybody's got guns that works there. You got people shooting guns. What's your strategy on keeping everything under control and making sure it's a safe environment?
So managing a range is pretty heavy, and there's no room for error. I think most jobs, if you misfile something, it's okay. You can refile it. It's not really like that when you're working with firearms. There's just no space to mess up. So it's pretty heavy. I have to remind myself every single day that everything that happens in there really comes down to being my fault. So it's very important that every single person is supported properly, and every single person needs, support in a little bit different way. But we all have to be our best all the time. So my job is just to make sure that I have the right people in there, and then that they all have the support that they need. So whatever they need to be their best all the time is what I have to give them. And then when we're not our best, we have to learn how to remove ourselves quicker than you would at another job. So kind of like forcing yourself to work through it isn't a good option at a job like this, where it's it's kind of like how you get ahead in the world everywhere else. But here it's how people die. So we can't do that. So it's just kind of adjusting to that mentality.
Got it. You do have really good employees. I would say they're great. I've been there a few times. What's the vetting process? Of course, they got to pass a background check, I'm sure. But how do you pick an employee that interviews with you? What's the checklist? How do you know if they're going to be a good fit or not? Because like you said, it is a very dangerous work environment.
Yeah, I wish I had a perfect solution or equation for that. I don't always, do perfectly. And I will say, like, if you make it like 3-4 months at the range, you're probably going to be there for years. So it's important to get someone that doesn't fit, not to keep them in that environment. It's not going to be good for them or anywhere else. But when I hire, obviously, I'm really lucky to have a lot of good people want to work at the range and apply at the range. So it's very helpful that I have such a large applicant, base. I have a lot of people to choose from. I really look at the kind of person they are and who they are, how they make decisions, and then what choices they make and when. I try to look at that a little bit more than I would look at, what firearm experience they have. Because first of all, maybe only 1 or 2 people have ever come to me with all the firearm experience that they need. Most people, even if they have a vast experience, they're not going to know every single system that we work on. And they're not going to know, there's a lot of education and kind of training involved, even if you are extremely knowledgeable and have this great experience. So I look at what kind of person they are, how they make decisions, what decisions they make, how they react under pressure. So when I'm asking questions in interviews, or if I'm interacting with them outside of interviews, I just kind of try to understand who they are and see if they'll fit on the team, and see if they'll, be able to make those choices and decisions. And also just like, work ethic isn't the right word, but kind of just like who they are and like, do they care? That's really, really important to me.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because you can get somebody that might be tainted from previous work experience in the military or something, and they've got some chips on their shoulder or like some issues. They don't really care. They just love the idea of the gun. And then you get somebody who might not know as much about guns, but really wants to learn, really is a great people person, and then they're a good fit. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. So I've actually hired a few of our customers. So people that I've already interacted with quite a few times. So I kind of get to know them, and I've known them over, months or years. So I kind of know what kind of person they are. And, we can we can train. We can, you can learn how to do kind of whatever you need to do. We've had some come in with like very little firearm experience that have ended up working for us for years and moved up in the company. So I really focus on like who they are, how they're going to work in a team. We really have to be able to work together as a team. It's so important. And like, will they work together on our specific team too?
Traditionally, the firearms industry is male dominated. Do you feel like it's changing with people like you, women that are in the industry, being in a position of power? I guess what I'm asking, how's the attitudes changed and what can be improved and what's missing?
I can't really say how the attitudes changed. I think a lot of attitudes changed towards me. I've seen a lot of attitudes change towards me over the years. We're missing women in the firearms industry. So the firearms industry needs to be more welcoming to women. That's just what it is. It's the fastest growing group of people that are becoming, gun owners, new gun owners. So it's something that the firearms industry needs to be more aware of. I was definitely not welcomed into the firearms industry with open arms, and I'm still not, and I don't really give a shit. So I'm doing better than all those people that talk shit about me, and they can just keep doing that. I really don't care. It's none of my business. I'm going to just keep doing what I do.
Yeah, and you're in a position where you are probably have more authority on what they're concerned about too. If they're sitting behind the keyboard talking shit, you're the one actually going out there and managing and making a range successful, because it is a successful range, probably the most successful in the state. At least everybody knows about the range. As a mother, what advice can you give other parents when they have children, and what age do you recommend that they teach their children about firearms?
So I don't really have an age, because I get that question a lot. What age is the right age? Anybody that is around kids knows that every child is so different. You could have a 4-year-old that's more mature than an 8-year-old. My recommendation is always to teach gun safety way earlier than you would ever imagine. So what I did and what I kind of recommend to people is there are little like fake plastic guns that you can buy on Amazon that are like working. You have the slide and the trigger and all this kind of stuff. So I always recommend get one of those and work on gun safety in your house. And when they really, really, really have it down, I did it for like a year and a half, like quite a while, till they're really experts, better than most adults, super confident. They understand the safety rules. They feel really good and they're excited to go to the range. Then I brought them to the range, and this stuff is just built in. Like, you really build that in from a young age, and there's not going to be any issue. It's just like everything else around your house that you teach safety. Electrical safety. Nobody asks, like, what age is the age to teach your kids electrical safety? Like,
Good point.
You're just teaching that from like day one, What's a good age to teach your kids about boiling water? Like, we just teach that stuff right away. So that's what I always recommend is like this, it's here, it's in the world we live in. Start teaching your kids immediately.
It sounds like what I'm understanding from this interview is confidence with the firearm is safety with the firearm. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. How do you got other businesses? Do you care to talk about what they are?
Yeah, they're probably not very interesting to most people that would find this interview interesting. But I also work, it's not my business, but I work very closely with one of my best friends who owns a concealed carry leggings business. So I put a lot of time and effort into that. It's also I love her. I love her product. It's exciting to have input in a product and then have it come to real life. So I'm so just lucky and happy to just be able to be a part of that. Vandi Leggings, if you know me, you know them. So that's a big part of like just who I am and what I love doing. And then I have a media company with my sister, and I do like social media consulting and all that kind of stuff as well. And just make sure to never sleep.
That's what I was going to ask. With managing, being a mother, these businesses, a social media influencer, some would say, how do you find time to relax, and what do you do to relax and unwind?
I don't relax or unwind. So I guess everyone can have their own opinion about that I maybe should or shouldn't be doing that. It's so important to me to be present for my children, be a provider for my children. Like I told you before, it's really important to me to give every single one of my team members what they need so they can do their job well. I also greatly respect the owners of the range. My best friend who owns the leggings company, my sister, all these people that I work with, I have so much respect for them. I would never want to let them down. So I prefer to do all of those things and be tired. That is a more fulfilling and joyful time for me than if I would put my feet up but not complete those things. I would be so stressed out and sad and disappointed in myself that like this is just where I am right now. I've had moments, other eras of my life that are relaxing, and I'm sure there will be more to come. And it's just like not what it is right now. And I'm okay with that.
That's great. Speaking of social media, anybody that knows anything about the Range 702 probably sees the crazy videos that you're posting with, what's the other girl's name?
Maddie,
yeah.
yeah.
How do you come up with the ideas for those videos, and what makes those posts so viral?
Oh, well, first I have to give credit because me and Maddie get a lot of glory. We do. We get a lot of glory, a lot of views. I have to give credit to almost the whole team at the range. I don't think there's anyone there who hasn't at some point been a part of these ideas. And we are a very close team. We are not your average, people who work together. We're extremely close. We all share this bond through humor. And a lot of those videos are thought up by people that are, not in the videos. We have people helping us take them. We have ideas a lot. I mean, you'll see other random people in the videos all the time. And not everyone has access to that. Some people aren't even allowed to do that at work. So it's really a team effort. I could never do all that stuff by myself. And especially because we'll be making a video and, somebody's like, oh, and you should do this and you should do that, so there's sometimes 7 or 8 people helping and kind of throwing out funnier ideas. And then me and Maddie get all the glory. Thanks, guys. But it really, that environment that we're in and, the friendships that we have kind of help create that. I don't know how or why they go viral. I couldn't tell you. Sometimes I make a video and I'm like, this is hilarious. This is gold. This is so good. And then, it's just minimal views. And then, I mean, me and Maddie were laughing about that the other day. We're like, why? Why is this viral? We don't understand. Yeah.
I think people that tell you that they have the answers to why things go viral or why it's a success on social media, I don't think anybody really knows.
I mean, there are there are certain things that help the videos do well. There are things that we try to hit, but really when it comes down to it, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know.
Well, they are entertaining, and at the very least, it's fun to watch. How important is fitness to you? Obviously, you look like you take care of yourself. How important is that? And how does that play into your roles with all the businesses that you're a part of and your management?
So for me, it's important for a few reasons. First of all, I have an ego, and I don't want these guys that are all, 15, 20 years younger than me that I work with, to ever be able to show me up just because of my ego. And I also don't want my children to be able to show me up because of my ego. So this gets more difficult every year. So part of it is that, but also, if you're going to work at a range, you need to be, and put yourself in situations that I put myself in. You have to be fast and, strong too. So I think, there's certain people that work at the range that our jobs, require us to be, somewhat fast and strong. And for sure, I couldn't go into a lot of the situations that I go into with confidence if, I didn't know. Like, there's been so many times where I've had to grab a gun away from somebody and I have no fear and I feel extremely confident because I know I'm stronger than this person and faster than this person. So that's pretty important to me. But also, I just want to be able to carry all my groceries in one trip like everyone else.
Got it. So what is some diet advice and training advice then that you could give to a woman that wants to keep up with you?
Oh my gosh. I'm really not the one to be giving advice out about that. 1 week I'll hit the gym like 6 days a week, and then the next week it's 2. And 1 week I perfectly meal prep and have the most amazing diet ever, and then the next week I'm like, I skip breakfast and lunch, and then I like down in and out on my way home. So I'm not special. It helps having a job where you're active, I think. And even before the range, being active and moving around makes me feel good. And so I like doing that. I lean towards jobs where I'm moving around a lot, I think. And like anyone else, I think you eat well and you feel better. So I am not on any plan. I don't do anything. I just really try. I try, and sometimes I fail, and sometimes I don't. So, hello. Do you agree?
Marcy, can you come grab Ferris, please? So we will cut this part out.
That's okay. Not a people cat. Yeah, right.
Last question.
Yes.
What is your day like from start to finish? Do you have everything written out? Or are you just like, okay, I got to answer this, and then I'm all over the place, and then it all goes together? Do you have a lot of structure because you are a busy person? And then how do you stay motivated to be that busy person?
So I always have a structure. I have a plan, and like 99% of the time it doesn't go that way. So I don't know. It's like a combination of like very well planned and structured, and then also fly by the seat of my pants. So all of the different businesses that I'm in will have a plan, and then also all these random things that pop up. So I've just kind of learned to like roll with it. I think surrounding yourself with really good people is so important. At the range, very rarely will a problem come up and I don't even have to ask. All of a sudden, the right people are there and we're all working together. So I think building that team, for years was the hard part. And now everything that comes at us is the easy part because we all work very well together. I have extremely knowledgeable people all around me. So the problems that we have are usually easily dealt with, which is really great. And at the range, we all know that we all are someone outside of the range. So we all have families, we all have obligations, and we work really well together to where like if I have to go take care of my kids suddenly, it's not even an issue. Like everybody just kind of jumps in and vice versa. So I think that's important. I couldn't survive without a team like that. So
Sounds like you got a really good thing going, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah.
It's been really informative, and I hope people get just as much out of it as I did. Thank you.